part of being a musician has always been about understanding the history of your particular instrument, not only where it comes from, who the most influential players are and were, but how it evolved to its present state. This is especially true with the drum set. The drum kit, as we think of it today, is only a little over 100 years old. And man, a lot has happened in that time. We should all make ourselves aware of important advancements in drumming and understand how things have changed through certain eras as new styles pop up. When a new style pops up, so does the need for a new approach to time and rhythm, like the change from the swung or dotted eighth note feel in jazz and early rock and R&B to the straight eighth time feel of rock and roll, hard rock, soul, and classic rock.
In today's lesson, we will look back at the historical period of early rock, its impact on the music world, how the beat of popular music changed, and how both swing and straight time are relevant to musicians today. The notion of swing and its roots are purely American. Around the turn of the 20th century, American styles such as ragtime and Dixieland helped define the modern band sound, especially the rhythm section. It was with the birth of jazz music that the drum set was invented, and with it, a new way of marking time emerged as well, called swing. The first musician said to really swing was the godfather of the modern jazz sound, the man credited with inventing scat singing and some of the first recorded examples of improvised jazz soloing, trumpeter Louis Armstrong. Drummers at that time played what is called a swung or dotted eighth. That rhythmic twist is what gives the traditional jazz beat its foundation.
The eighth note, as we usually think of it, is counted like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. This interpretation was changed by early jazz musicians. For their music, the usual eighth note count was too restrictive. They let some of their notes last a bit longer and other ones they shortened so it all fit together like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so forth. This new way of playing the time fit their music, and the new code of rhythm changed the way people wrote, sang, played, improvised American music for many, many years, even to this day. Prior to the 1950s, every drum set drummer was really a jazz drummer. The symphony orchestra and rudimental approaches still dominated education and certainly had an impact on drum set playing, but everybody still played the on the hi-hat through the big band era of the 30s and 40s. Papa Joe Jones, Gene Krupa, Big Sid Catlett, Buddy Rich. Everything, of course, changed when rock and roll drummers like Earl Palmer and Hal Blaine made the eighth note straight again, and the piano and guitar went from da 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 to the straight eighth feel, da 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 da. And from that old funky bluesy thing, you get that heavy eighth note feel, the guitar downstroke, bass drum thing where they function like an old jazz rhythm section but without horns and strings and all that. More primal, in your face. Drums, guitar, keyboard, bass, boom.
heavy accent on 2 and 4 has always been a big part of American music, especially for a drummer. This goes back to the marches and street beat sounds that were played in New Orleans. In 1926, Wahlberg and Augie, a drum accessory company, produced the first hi-hat, which revolutionized drum set playing and immediately became part of a standard drum set configuration. The chick sound from the hi-hat on beats 2 and 4 became part of ride cymbal playing, and later on, a snare beat was added to solidify the importance of this 2 and 4 accent, now called a backbeat. This 2 and 4 accent only got heavier and more prominent in time. By the time jazz and bebop had given way to R&B, blues, country and western, rockabilly, and rock and roll, the swung eighth note slowly straightened out again. This transition can be heard in the recordings of Chuck Berry, early James Brown, Elvis Presley, Little Richard, Buddy Holly, and other artists from the early rock and roll era.
So by the time you reach the 1960s, you have young beginning drummers who were influenced by those early rock guys like Hal Blaine and Earl Palmer, who were really jazz drummers to begin with. These young new players were the first true rock musicians, in my opinion, because they were the first generation to be influenced by the earlier pioneering musicians who were actually just crossing over from their country, jazz, blues, R&B, and gospel roots. That's when the straight, heavy eighth note feel began to be a bigger part of the standard drum set language. In the language of rock, hard rock, metal, funk, punk, hip-hop, country, gospel, and R&B, to name just a few.
Drummers we admire most are usually the ones who know the history of their craft well enough to add to it in a meaningful way, either by pushing the boundaries or discovering a new way to do familiar things. Find out who influenced your favorite artist, band, or drummer by reading and watching interviews. Then check out those influences yourself. You may discover something really cool. Experiment with the swung eighth note feel and see if you can add this rhythm to your bag. Start by simply playing eighth notes on your snare or practice pad and giving them a swung feel. For drum set, even a very slight swing on ghost notes and snare and bass drum beats can add more rhythmic depth and feel to your groove.